Hey everybody, Bill in Virginia. Welcome back. So putting down more pink foam board, finally. I'm picking up where I left off over here. Over in this area is the scene that I did in the last video. So I'm starting to get the pink foam board put into place. I do not have this glued yet. I will glue it down probably tomorrow evening. And I'll glue all of this down. I'll add some small filler pieces in here just to kind of build this up. What I'm thinking of doing in this area now is, if you remember, I was talking about maybe trying to have like a feature going up a little bit so I could have a little tunnel. I'm opting to not do that because I'm thinking I'm going to put the tunnel right there to kind of carry it around. Maybe, we'll see how that goes. But what I am going to do here is I'm going to take the scenery and drop it down a little bit. So, you know, land coming up, same thing over here coming in and then kind of dropping down. Not a canyon or a gorge, but just sort of going down a hill slope. And then I can have trees coming up, which will act as view blocks, and just kind of pull the eye a little bit as you're looking up top. Instead of just pulling it to here, it's also going to pull it lower. So you're going to have different perspectives that you can look at on the layout. We'll see how that works as I go farther. Up here, I've already got a big piece of pink foam board glued in with construction adhesive. Got a lot of weight on it since this, again, slopes and twists ever so slightly. I want weight to hold it in position until the adhesive really sets well. I'll add some more pink foam between here and here in this area over here, kind of build it up a little bit, plus glue it together. And then I'll do the same thing over there. I'll probably add a piece on top here that'll go under this one here, glue them together, and then add a few more chunks so that I can get the form for the hills that I'm wanting to do and go from there. So this one will be a mostly foam board video, probably maybe some Sculptamold by the time I wrap it up here. We'll see. We'll just see how I can progress as the week goes on. So Wednesday evening, and I now have the pink foam board glued in place. I have opted to leave the tunnel portal in that location where I was originally talking about rather than move it forward. I think that'll give me a better viewpoint, and I was thinking of doing some nice things with the rock strata here where it's coming around the corner, but then it's going to start to arch up, which will kind of continue the illusion that it goes vertical once I get over to that part of the layout. On top, I have added in additional chunks of foam board. This is going to be all that I'm going to add in, although, I might add a couple of chunks right in here, kind of build this up a little bit. But these are all glued in. You know, I'll have a little bit of mounding, get a little bit of a stepped pattern, similar to what I've got over here. And then this is all going to be forest with, of course, the moonshine still. Over here above the portal, again, just kind of bringing it up so it makes it look like there is actually a reason for the train to go in and under. And then this will be sort of a jumbled rock mass with, again, trees on the top. So I am going to continue to work my way around. I've still got to put in some here. And then over here, which is where the tunnel portal is for the O scale. And then I'll come back in and I'll do some finish work in and around this area on the front. There won't be too much here. Like I was talking in the other segment, this will be sort of a drop down. So I'll figure this one out a little bit later. But this is how this is going to kind of look. So this should continue on pretty well for continuity, going around and up and over. So let's see what other mischief I can get into here. So still Wednesday night and getting started over on this side as well. So starting to get the backing in behind that portal, leaving myself some room with this piece so I can build up scenery and make it knobby, give it an appearance similar to this so that I can have some good textures in it rather than just a flat upright. I haven't got it glued in yet, but I've got this side pretty well done with how I want it. And that's just scrap. I'll move that later. But yeah, I think this should be good. I should have some pretty good opportunities over here to do some pretty fun scenery like what I've got right here. So let's see what else I can get done. Well, still Wednesday night. and I just had to do a little bit of rework. My tunnel portal entrance over here, I got looking at it, and it felt like I really didn't have much in the way of clearance between here and the top. So originally I had it here and going across. So I took a little stick and measured on my 10-wheeler, and if I had left it, the top of the tunnel portal on the pink foam board would have hit right about there on the stack. So lesson learned, measure and measure twice. So I had to come back in and I ripped off all of the top and then cut this piece out, build it up another level. And then I did have another piece farther over that I'd had extending this way that I had to trim back and cut a chunk of that out. And then put everything back in and kind of build it up to the shape that I wanted so that I could have clearance under here for the train. And I've got good clearance now. And then the little 1x that you see in the background in the distance, no problem getting under that. So I should be good from here on out. Next thing is I've got to do some adhesive still over on the far pieces there. Once I get that done, you know what, I'm going to start doing some Sculptamold. I'll probably start on this corner and then just kind of start working my way around on the cliffs, but that will be for another night. So I'm going to wrap it up for Wednesday and then see what mischief I can get into on Thursday. Thursday night, and I have the pink foam board glued in place on everything over on this side. Came back in with my fiberglass drywall tape, which is sticky on one side, and covered the vertical face. So if you remember earlier videos, that's how I built up these vertical faces as well. Gives the Sculptamold and plaster something to bite into as I'm doing rock work. So next step will be to get my hot knife out, and I will kind of get rid of some of the sharp edges and round over some of the corners on this area over here. Do just a little bit, so don't need to do too much, just a little to kind of get rid of some of those angles. And then I'll be ready to start putting in some Sculptamold over on this side to start building up some different things. And once I get the Sculptamold in over here, I can start to look at completing the fascia on this side. I'll be doing a couple of things with it so that I can get access to the O scale that runs underneath, and I've got to make a little jig to do a cutout on the fascia, but that will come a little later here. So let's see what else I can get done. Well, late Thursday evening, and I'm going to wrap it up for the day. So starting to get some Sculptamold put down just to get the rough shapes in place. I'll come back with a second coat in some areas, flesh it out, as well as then come back in with the plaster and do some other stuff. I did find an interesting thing here, and you can see I've got little blebs down there on paper, and that's good to catch it. But if you take a very small piece of Sculptamold and you put it on something that is gray, you get what looks like bird droppings on there. Now I am planning on painting the portal into sort of a concrete type gray, but I noticed that after a few blebs had bounced off of it, and it's the water that's in the Sculptamold gives that color. So once I do paint this sort of a concrete type color, and it'll be sort of a weathered grayish color, I'm going to come back in with pieces of damp Sculptamold and see if I can replicate what looks like bird poo on that. I thought that worked out pretty good. So in addition to here, I also started just a little bit over here. Again, this is just the first layer. You just kind of slap it on, press it in so that it forms the hard shell. And I will do more on this. I've got a fair amount to do. So I'm glad I have got the box of Sculptamold. I've got plenty to work with. So let's see what I can get done here over the next couple of days. Well, it's Friday evening, and I am about done. So I've been putting Sculptamold on tonight as well. Getting this area with the first coat. Got Sculptamold starting to build up over on this side. Added a little bit more over on this side. And tomorrow I will add a lot more Sculptamold. I will fill in all of the crevices and cracks and smooth out the landscape up here, and then come back and add Sculptamold along those cliff faces. Then I can come back in with additional Sculptamold and fill in areas like right here and other areas to kind of smooth out some of the transitions on the surface. Once that's done, then it's plaster time to start bringing it in where I can do rock carvings and some outcrops and some other fun things on this. So this is looking pretty good. I've got a lot more to go, but you can see how this is taking shape and just how the landscape is gonna look. So let's see what else I can do here. So late Saturday afternoon, and I've got second coat of Sculptamold on in the locations I'm planning on doing it. And I don't have a lot of walk space anymore, so that's why the camera is doing what it's doing. So everything has got Sculptamold on it now, as much as I'm gonna do. I will come back in here later and start with plaster to put on in areas for rock carving. And all of this will eventually look like that in some way or fashion. I will make a wood tunnel portal here and do finish work on it. But right now, what I'm doing is I'm getting the fascia cut to go on this side of the layout. I can get that done and I can get that put into place pretty quick here. So I'm going to do that yet this evening. I need to get my jigsaw out and cut the contours, and then I can start putting it in place, but making some progress today. Well, late Saturday evening, and I got the fascia installed on this piece here. So I can come back in and I can fill in some of the gaps. Use Sculptamold, use some other odds and ends. Do have to put in, I might actually be able to glue a piece of pink foam board down there and then use some of that fiberglass tape to kind of fill in that little spot. Otherwise, the rest of it I can fill in just with Sculptamold. So coming off this way to look, so that's gonna look pretty good by the time I get it all done. So yeah, making some good progress today. And just a distant shot. The garage is a little cramped for space. I still have to get rid of my molder, the old one that I've got, that I can push that actually farther over. But that looks pretty good. I also went to Hobby Lobby earlier and I got a bunch more grapevine wire, another 4 spools, as well as some acrylic paint. Nice thing is they were having one of their 30 to 50% off sales. So I was figuring I was going to be spending about 30 bucks, and I ended up spending only a little over 13 bucks. So I was quite happy about that. And from that, I should be able to make at least 44 more pine trees. So that'll be coming at some point down the road once I get a little bit farther on this piece here. Sunday afternoon, and I've been coming back in with Sculptamold and flushing up the scenery with the fascia. So I've got it pretty much completed all the way down. I am going to add a couple of logs in this area. Not really make a gully, but just kind of make an area that is a little bit lower and has some logs for a retaining wall. That should look kind of nice. Use the same twigs that I had on the other side. Over here, I am starting to build it up to the wax paper. On this, I'm going to let that dry a little bit, then I'll come back in with some more and take care of that. I did get some paint at Hobby Lobby yesterday, so I can repaint the portal, make it a little bit more realistic color. But I'll let this kind of sit for a little while. And once I get the additional Sculptamold put in place over here, Then I will start to think about getting the plaster out. But I think I'll just show one more little clip here on how this looks without the wax paper in position once I get it done, and that will be it for this video. Well, the Sculptamold is now in between the two sections of the layout here. I will let the Sculptamold set for a little while, and then I will pull out the wax paper, and everything's lining up good up on top. Just normal tweaks that I've got to do when I move it. Put that tree back that came in right there so that I could work in there. But then the next thing is I can move over to plaster. But just one more quick snippet with the wax paper out, and then that will wrap this one up. So there is a wax paper thin seam right there between these two modules. So I'm happy with how that looks. I think the next thing that I'm going to do is something else. I'm not sure what I'm going to do right now. Maybe start painting track on the top. Maybe go get some painter's tape. Maybe start slinging plaster. I don't know. I'll figure it out, but that'll be on the next video. So anyway, this is going to wrap this one up. So keep having fun on your layouts. Until next time.